You're sitting in your favorite chair and you go to stand up. And for just a second, your legs don't quite listen the way they used to. Maybe you catch yourself gripping the armrest a little tighter than you used to need to. Maybe the stairs at home feel steeper than they did just a year or two ago. Or maybe it's something smaller, walking through the grocery store, and by the time you reach the checkout, your legs feel heavy, almost like you've been wading through water. If any of this sounds familiar, I want you to know something right away. You are not imagining it, and you are not alone. Millions of people over 70 notice this same thing happening, and almost everyone assumes the same thing. Well, I'm just getting older. But here's what most people don't realize. Age alone doesn't explain what's happening in your legs. There's something else going on underneath the surface, something quiet, something most doctors don't have time to fully explain in a 15-minute appointment. And once you understand it, a lot of things are going to start making sense, things you may have brushed off for months or even years. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what's really behind that weakness, why it sneaks up the way it does, and, most importantly, what you can actually do about it starting today. Let's start with something that might surprise you. When people think about weak legs, they almost always think about muscles. It seems obvious, right? You're older. Your muscles aren't what they used to be, so of course your legs feel weaker. That's the story most people tell themselves. But muscle loss is only part of the picture. And honestly, it's not even the part that explains why the weakness feels so unpredictable, strong one day, shaky the next. Think about it this way. Have you ever had a morning where your legs felt perfectly fine, and then later, that same afternoon, walking to the mailbox felt like a chore? If muscle loss were the whole story, that wouldn't happen. Muscles don't disappear and reappear within a few hours. So something else has to be going on. Let's talk about one of the biggest misconceptions out there, because I think this one trips up more people than anything else. Most people assume that if their legs feel weak, the answer is simply do more squats or walk more. And exercise absolutely matters. We'll get into that. But here's the mistake. Jumping straight to exercise without understanding what's actually causing the weakness is a little like trying to fix a flickering light bulb by buying a brighter bulb. If the wiring itself has a problem, a brighter bulb won't fix anything. So let's look at the wiring. One of the most overlooked contributors to leg weakness after 70 is circulation. Your leg muscles need a steady supply of oxygen-rich blood to work properly, especially the muscles in your calves and thighs, which are some of the largest muscles in your entire body. As we age, blood vessels can lose some of their flexibility, and blood flow to the legs can slow down, particularly if you spend a lot of time sitting during the day. Here's something a lot of people don't realize. You don't have to have a diagnosed circulation problem to feel the effects of poor circulation. Even mild, gradual changes can leave your legs feeling tired, heavy, or achy, especially later in the day, after dinner, or during those quiet evening hours in front of the TV. Think about Frank, a retired mailman I heard about who used to walk miles every single day for work. After retiring, he naturally started sitting more. Coffee in the morning, crossword puzzle, maybe some gardening, then more sitting in the evening. Within a couple of years, he started noticing his legs felt stiff and weak by early afternoon, even though nothing about his health had dramatically changed. What had changed was how much his legs were actually being used to pump blood back up toward his heart. That's the surprising part. Your leg muscles aren't just for movement. They act almost like a second heart, squeezing blood upward every time you take a step. When you sit for long stretches, that pump slows down and your legs can start to feel the consequences, even if your heart itself is perfectly healthy. Now let's talk about something else that rarely gets mentioned: blood sugar. Many people managing blood sugar concerns don't realize just how directly it can affect the nerves running down into the legs and feet. Even mild, gradual changes in blood sugar over the years can slowly affect how clearly those nerve signals travel. This is why some people notice odd sensations, tingling, numbness, or that unsettling feeling of not quite trusting their footing, long before any major diagnosis is ever made. Here's where most people make a mistake. They notice these small sensations, chalk it up to getting older, and never mention it to their doctor, because it doesn't seem serious enough to bring up. But these little signals are often your body's way of asking for attention early, while there's still plenty you can do about it. And then there's one more piece of this puzzle that surprises almost everyone: joint health. You might think joint pain and leg weakness are two completely separate issues, but they're often deeply connected. When a joint, especially the knee or hip, starts to hurt, your body naturally starts to protect it. Without you even realizing it, you begin shifting your weight, favoring one leg, taking shorter steps, or avoiding certain movements altogether. Over time, this protective habit means certain muscles get used less and less. And muscles that aren't used regularly weaken faster than most people expect. So the pain came first, but the weakness followed quietly behind it, almost like a shadow you didn't notice creeping in. This is exactly why so many people say things like, "I don't understand it. My legs were fine until my knees started bothering me, and now everything feels weaker." It's not a coincidence. It's cause and effect. So when you put all of this together, circulation, nerve signals, joint protection, you start to see why leg weakness after 70 is rarely about just one thing. It's usually several small changes happening quietly at the same time, each one adding a little more difficulty to the next. And here's the good news hiding inside all of this. Because these causes are so common and so interconnected, the solutions are often simpler than people expect. You don't need anything drastic. You don't need to become a different person overnight. What you need is to understand exactly where to focus your attention, and that's exactly what we're going to walk through next. Here's where it gets interesting. Your legs aren't just muscle. They're a communication system. Your brain sends signals down through your spinal cord, through your nerves, all the way to your leg muscles, telling them exactly when to fire, how hard to contract, and how to keep you balanced without you even thinking about it. It's happening thousands of times a minute every time you walk, stand, or even just shift your weight in a chair. And as we get older, that communication system can start to develop what I like to call static in the line. The signal is still being sent, your muscles are still there, but the message doesn't always arrive as clearly or as quickly as it used to. This is why so many people over 70 describe their legs feeling not quite mine, heavy, sluggish, occasionally wobbly, even when there's no obvious injury or illness. It's not that the muscle itself has vanished overnight. It's that the signal telling that muscle what to do has weakened. Now, this matters more than you might think, because this kind of weakness doesn't just affect walking to the mailbox. It affects the small, everyday things you probably don't even think about. Getting up from a chair without pushing off with your hands, catching your balance if you trip on a curb, standing steady while reaching into a cabinet. Many people notice it first in situations like standing up from a low couch or navigating stairs without a handrail. And it's easy to write that off as just getting older and move on with your day. But here's the part that catches people off guard. This kind of leg weakness is often connected to a handful of very common, very manageable things: circulation, nerve health, blood sugar, even how much sitting you do during the day. None of these are rare conditions. In fact, many people already have early versions of them without realizing it. And once you understand what's actually driving that weakness, you start to see why some approaches to strengthening your legs work and why others quietly fail, no matter how many exercises you try. That's exactly what we're going to walk through next. All right, let's get into the part you've probably been waiting for: what you can actually do about all of this. And I want to start by saying something important. None of what I'm about to share requires a gym membership, expensive equipment, or hours of your day. In fact, the most effective changes are often the simplest ones, done consistently, woven into the life you're already living. Let's start with movement, because this is where most people either get it right or accidentally get it wrong. Here's the mistake so many people make. They hear exercise is good for leg strength, so they go all in: long walks, intense workouts, pushing hard right out of the gate. And within a week or two, they're sore, discouraged, or even dealing with a new ache that wasn't there before, so they quit. And honestly, who could blame them? The truth is, your legs don't need intensity, they need frequency. Think about it this way: standing up from a chair without using your hands 5 or 6 times in a row, once or twice a day, does more for your leg strength over time than one exhausting workout a week. It directly targets those large muscles
in your thighs, and it trains the communication between your brain and your legs. Remember that signal we talked about earlier? Many people find it helpful to do this right where they already spend time, sitting in front of the TV in the evening. During the commercial breaks, stand up, sit down, stand up again. It sounds almost too simple to matter, but small, repeated movements like this are exactly what rebuild that connection between brain and muscle. Now let's talk about walking, because there's a detail here that catches almost everyone off guard. It's not just about how far you walk, it's about how often you get up and move throughout the day. If you take one long walk in the morning and then sit for the remaining 10 or 12 hours, your circulation still slows down significantly during all that sitting time. But if you take several short walks throughout the day, even just walking to the mailbox around the kitchen while the coffee brews, or a lap around the backyard, you keep that natural leg pump working consistently, which supports circulation far better than one big walk alone. This is why some people walk regularly and still struggle with heavy, tired legs. It's not that walking doesn't work, it's that the walking is too concentrated into one part of the day with too much stillness surrounding it. Next, let's talk about something people rarely connect to leg strength: hydration. Mild dehydration, which becomes increasingly common as we age because our sense of thirst naturally weakens, can affect muscle function and make legs feel more fatigued and heavy than they actually are. Many people don't realize that something as simple as sipping water throughout the day, rather than only drinking with meals, can make a noticeable difference in how your legs feel by evening. Now, here's a detail that surprises almost everyone I share it with. Footwear plays a bigger role in leg strength than most people ever consider. Shoes that don't offer proper support can subtly change the way you walk, causing certain muscles to overwork while others barely engage at all. Over months and years, this imbalance can quietly contribute to weakness in ways that have nothing to do with age at all. If you've had the same pair of walking shoes for several years, or you tend to wear slippers or unsupportive shoes around the house, this might be worth a closer look. Let's talk about one more overlooked habit: how you get up in the morning. Many people swing their legs out of bed and stand up quickly, especially if they're in a hurry. But your circulation and balance systems need a moment to catch up after lying down for hours. Sitting on the edge of the bed for just 20 or 30 seconds before standing gives your body time to adjust, which can reduce that wobbly, unsteady feeling so many people notice first thing in the morning. And finally, let's talk about something that ties everything together: consistency over perfection. You don't need to do everything on this list every single day. In fact, trying to do everything at once is exactly how people burn out and give up within a week. Instead, pick one or two of these habits that feel realistic for your life right now. Maybe it's standing up during commercial breaks. Maybe it's sitting on the edge of the bed each morning before rising. Maybe it's simply carrying a water bottle with you through the day. Small, steady habits like these, repeated over weeks and months, are what actually rebuild strength and stability, not dramatic, short-lived efforts that fade after a few days. And once these habits start to feel natural, something wonderful tends to happen. You stop thinking about your legs with worry and you start trusting them again. That trust, that confidence in your own body is really what we're working toward here. And that's exactly what we're going to bring together next. Here's what I want you to take away from everything we've talked about today. That weakness you've been feeling in your legs, it's not simply getting older. It's your body sending you information about circulation, about nerve signals, about how joints and muscles are working together, or sometimes working against each other without you realizing it. And now that you understand what's actually happening underneath the surface, you're in a completely different position than you were 20 minutes ago. You're no longer guessing. You're no longer quietly wondering if this is just something you have to accept. You know that circulation slows when we sit too long, and that your legs act almost like a second heart, needing regular movement to keep blood flowing the way it should. You know that nerve signals can grow a little quieter over time, especially when blood sugar shifts gradually, and that those small sensations, the tingling, the unsteadiness, are worth mentioning to your doctor rather than brushing aside. You know that joint pain and leg weakness are often connected, one quietly leading to the other. And you know that the solution was never about doing more, harder, faster. It was about doing the right small things consistently. Standing up a few extra times during the day, taking shorter, more frequent walks instead of one long one, sipping water throughout the day instead of just at meals, giving yourself 30 seconds before standing up in the morning, wearing shoes that actually support you. These aren't dramatic changes, but dramatic isn't what your legs need right now. They need consistency, patience, and a little bit of attention. Here's something I want you to really sit with. Your body has an incredible ability to respond to small, steady care even later in life. The nerve signals we talked about, the circulation, the muscle strength, these systems don't just decline in one direction with no way back. When you give them what they need, even in small doses, they respond. Slowly, quietly, but they respond. So the next time you stand up from your favorite chair and your legs feel just a little steadier than they did last week, I want you to remember this moment. Remember that you didn't need a miracle, or a dramatic transformation, or hours at a gym. You just needed to understand what was really going on and to give your body a little consistent care in the right places. If this video helped you see your own legs, your own mornings, your own evenings in a new light, do something kind for yourself today. Pick just one thing we talked about. Maybe it's standing up during the next commercial break. Maybe it's a glass of water sitting beside your chair right now. And start there. And if you know someone else who's been quietly dealing with this same thing, a spouse, a neighbor, a friend from church who's mentioned their legs feeling tired lately, consider sharing this with them. Sometimes the most helpful thing we can do for the people we care about is simply help them understand what's really happening, so they don't have to face it alone either. Take care of those legs of yours. They've carried you through more than you probably ever stopped to think about. And with a little steady attention, they're going to keep carrying you through many more mornings, many more walks, many more moments that matter. I'll see you in the next one.